Shortly before World War II, the Empire of Japan had built up one of the largest militaries in the world. After years of fighting, they finally surrendered to the Allies in 1945, agreeing to disband all military forces, leaving only a small police force to handle domestic issues. The Empire of Japan officially ended in 1947, and the nation of Japan was formed. The country drafted a new constitution. In it, Article 9 states that the Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation and the threat or use of force by means of settling international disputes. It also states that land, sea, and air forces, as well as other war potential, will never be maintained. The United States forces Japan were responsible for the defense of the country. However, within a few years, that started to change. Shortly after the start of the Korean War in 1950, Japan established the National Police Reserve. In 1954, it was reorganized into the Japan Self-Defense Forces, with 3 branches: a ground force, air force, and a naval force. However, the self-defense force purpose in Japanese law is only for defending the Japanese islands from attack. Article 9 has been the topic of much debate and interpretation ever since, with pacifists calling the current self-defense forces unconstitutional, to the nationalists calling Article 9 to be completely revised, and everything in between. The current Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, is a member of the Liberal Democratic Party. Abe comes from a powerful political family. His father, Shintaro Abe, was Foreign Minister and a member of the House of Representatives. His grandfather on his father's side, Kan Abe, also served in the House. His grandfather on his mother's side, Nobusu Kishi, was a Prime Minister of Japan, and his grand-uncle, Eisaku Sato, was also a Prime Minister. Many members of the family have called for expansion of the Japanese forces. For example, Kishi called for completely abolishing Article 9. Current leader Shinzo Abe has also continued that trend. Since Abe first became Prime Minister in 2006, the Japanese defense budget has increased 50%, from $32 billion to $47 billion, making them the 8th largest in the world in terms of defense spending. He too has also called several times for the revision of Article 9. The population of Japan itself is divided on the issue. However, over the years, they have become more open to the idea of expanding the role of the self-defense forces, not only for the defense of the country, but to defend allies in the event of a war, justifying this by saying not defending and supporting allies around the world would hurt those alliances and therefore the future security of the country. A major supporter for the calls to abolish Article 9 is a group called the Nippon Kaigi. The Nippon Kaigi is a nationalist association calling for the return of traditional Japanese cultures and values, and to restore the political power to the Imperial House and the Emperor. The current Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, is a strong supporter and a member of this group. In recent years, several threats have arisen, leading to calls for the expansion of Japan's armed forces. The major issue currently is that with North Korea. North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile program is no longer a threat only to the US and South Korea, but also to Japan. In October 2017, North Korea threatened Japan by telling them to stop putting economic pressure on their country, or they will bring, quote, nuclear clouds to the Japanese archipelago. Then the next month, in November, North Korea again threatened Japan by saying that they can make the country disappear at once. In testing of ballistic missiles, North Korea has regularly fired missiles near or over the country of Japan. Another potential threat to Japan is China. Relations between the two countries have been strained for well over a century. A lot of the tension comes from Japanese war crimes committed in China during World War II, especially regarding the Nanking Massacre. Japan has also been concerned with the rapid military expansion that has occurred in China in recent years, promoting calls for Japan to expend its forces as well. And finally, another major issue is over the Senkaku Islands. The Senkaku Islands are a group of uninhabited islands about 150 kilometers northeast of Taiwan and are currently under control of Japan. However, China, Japan, and Taiwan all claim ownership over the islands. Despite being uninhabited, the discovery of oil near the islands has led to increased territorial disputes between the 3 nations. And with China's recent expansion in the nearby South China Sea, fears of China taking the islands by force have fueled yet another call to expand Japan's military might. The Japanese Navy, called the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, has greatly expanded since the end of the Cold War. In this time period, they have constructed nearly 24 submarines, 4 helicopter destroyers, 24 destroyers, and several landing ships, minesweepers, escorts, and various others. Japan is now often ranked in the top 5 most capable navies in the world. These so-called helicopter destroyers Japan operates went from the Shireen class, able to carry 3 aircraft in the late 70s, to the Hyuga and the Izumo class, built in recent years, able to carry up to 18 and 28 aircraft respectively. They operate 2 of each. The Izumo class ships are around 250 meters in length, just 30 meters short of the UK's new Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier. There have even been discussions to purchase F-35Bs to operate from these ships, turning them into fully fledged aircraft carriers. Their destroyers are yet another area where Japan has greatly advanced. The Atago and Kangu class destroyers are Aegis equipped, and are very similar to the US Arleigh Burke class ships in appearance, size, and capability, with 90 plus VLS cells able to fire a variety of missiles. One of those missiles is the new SM-3. Japan is currently the only other nation other than the US to operate these missiles. The SM-3 is specifically designed to shoot down ballistic missiles, for Japan the main threat coming from North Korea. They have worked closely with the US in testing this weapon, their first test taking place in 2007 on board the Congo. They are now working with the US in testing the new SM-3 Block 2s, which have a much longer range and much more advanced sensors. Japan was extremely interested in purchasing the F-22 from the US, however the US passed laws banning export of the aircraft. Japan has instead opted to buy the F-35 and to construct their own air superiority fighter. Japan built the F-2 in the late 90s based on the US F-16. They are now currently working on a follow-up aircraft, the stealthy 5th generation F-3. The F-3 prototypes appear similar in appearance to the American F-22 and is expected to be operational in the mid-2020s. Another major change is Japan's intention to purchase long-range cruise missiles. Japan's self-defense minister announced in December 2017 they are looking to purchase the Joint Strike Missile, which has a range of 500 kilometers, and the JASSM-ER, with a range of 1,000 kilometers. Both of these weapons are extremely long-ranged, something more typical of an offensive weapon than defensive weapons. Both weapons will be able to fit on the F-35s that Japan plans to purchase. And finally, there have been reports in Japanese media, with sources inside the government saying that a secret study was conducted, and it supposedly concluded that if Japan were to build nuclear weapons, they could do so in 3 to 5 years. Another claim reportedly said that they could do it in only 6 months, however this seems a little bit unrealistic. Japan is the only nation in history to have been attacked with nuclear weapons. As a result, most of the Japanese people are firmly against the use or even possession of nuclear weapons, so it is unlikely Japan will proceed with developing these weapons. The reported secret study gave no further details other than that the study took place. Over the past few decades, Japan has greatly increased their military strength, which many people believe has far exceeded its constitutional right. With the growing threat from North Korea and China, and the pro-military expansion prime minister in power, we may soon see Japan move away from their pacifist stance and into a new regional military superpower.